Alhamdulillah, we made it. Once you reach, that's what the Arabs they say, فلان جاوز القنطرة. يعني ما معنى جاوز القنطرة؟ نجا. That's it. There's nothing after that. Jannah. There's a one-way road now. Once you reach the qantara, you can smile, inshallah ta'ala.
It's a place,
It's a place, yes, after salat.
anything
All that's going to happen there is just little mistakes and shortcomings amongst the believers. Once that happens, we're entering Jannah now. Habibi.
We know the hadith where a man was killed and then to give him, and then he was admitted to Jannah.
Sah.
But also we have that a person who kills another person without any reason, he will be held accountable. So how is that justice reconciling with the injustice of the incident?
Right. So again, this is the legislation of the previous nations. So that man is not from our nation. So back then, how did they deal with somebody who killed another person? Were they killed for it or not? Allahu alam. As you know, prophets, they did have different legislations. So it seems from that story that mere repentance was enough. But our it's not just enough, because there's a haqq adami, a person's right is connected to it. So if you did it deliberately, you have to be killed for them. And if you did it by accident, there's blood, money, and all of that has to be paid.
Sure. After the QnA and the questions in the green, what happens to the person?
After
the question and he answers it.
Yeah, so the adab or the adab on the na'im starts for them, based on their answering of the question. When they answer the question,
if he answers them correctly,
his blessing starts. The qabr will be made wide for him. A window would be opened for him from Jannah. And for him it's a garden from the gardens of Jannah. He's inside, and the qabr will be made so big as far as his eyes can see. The other one, the qabr will be made tight so much حتى تختلف أضلاعه, until his ribs they cross through, and his intestines and everything come from his nose, because of the sins and the adab that's going to start from him.
there is something like that where the good deeds come in the form of a person. Then they accompany.
Yes, he says أنا عملك الصالح. That's in the famous hadith of Bara ibn Azib that we didn't finish off that. The hadith of Al-Bara ibn Azib in Muslim Imam Ahmad. If you go to the ayah, يثبت الله الذين آمنوا بالقول الثابت في الحياة الدنيا وفي الآخرة ويضل الله الظالمين ويفعل الله ما يشاء. In the tafsir of Ibn Kathir brings the entire hadith. So he comes in the form of his actions. He says, أنا عملك الصالح. And then he says, you look like someone who's giving me good glad tidings. And he says, yes, I am your good deeds, to bring you good news. So yes. And the other one is he says that you are an evil person. What are you? And he says, I'm your actions, the things that you did. And not only that, the angels, there's going to be angels. So he starts beating him. As Allah says, يَضْرِبُونَ وُجُوهَهُمْ وَأَدْبَارَهُمْ. He's getting beaten and lashed. The concept of the qabr by itself could be that 5 hours. We can speak about the qabr by itself. That's why this journey is very long. Each per point, there's so much narrations. I have a 4-volume book that just talks about the Prophet's hawd. Just the Prophet's fountain. Do you understand? So the journey is not easy. It's like each point deserves to be stuck and spoke about in great details. That's but something you guys have done is ignited this desire of wanting to go back and make a series, inshallah ta'ala, where I speak about this from the beginning with great detail. All of the narrations, compile it, all of the views and all the discussions related to it, and speak about this journey in the most detailed manner so that no questions can be asked regarding it. But there is a book I do encourage you guys to read. It's very good in this series. And it gives you a good understanding. It's Muhammad Sulaiman al-Ashqar's kitab. Ashqar's kitab is good, mashallah. He talks about al-Qiyamah al-Sughra and al-Kubra. So it's a good book to read, inshallah ta'ala.
When we pass away, we have disconnected from this world, but we can see them in our dreams sometimes. Like that, can they get any information about their parents, their kids, once they pass away? Yeah, Allah's wish, they are get any information that when they get any good deed, any good thing in their life.
No, there's no clear-cut evidences. Even though Ibn al-Qayyim does suggest things like that. Again, that again is a topic called يعني the soul's meeting. How this whole issue behind this, that itself could be another يعني lengthy discussion about what happens with the people's soul. يعني where does it go? How does it get punished? How does it get rewarded? The discussion of it. But in simple terms, Allahu A'lam, there's no evidence to suggest that.
Barzakh and Khabar, two different things.
Barzakh and what?
Barzakh and Khabar.
So the barzakh is the stage from the time you die to the time the hour is yeah. I know. So the qabr is just a place that you're in. That's all it is. But the barzakh is the stage between, it's the entire stage between what? So when you're being washed, this is hayatul barzakh is in. Even though you're not in your qabr yet, but this is, we'll say this person is hayatul barzakh.
So people stay until the Barzakh or Khabar.
So it's tricky because some people, what happens is they die in the ocean, they drown. Some people, they get burnt alive. يعني you can't say they're in qabr because they're not in a grave, صح? Right. So they're in barzakh. Hayatul barzakh.
Is there sleep?
Yeah?
Is there sleep?
In the day of judgment?
لا في القبر.
No. There's no sleep.
والتوقيت يعني شلون توقيت طويل.
There's no, it's just adab or na'im.
Sheikh, the souls of Ilyin and Sijin can see each other? Like this soul is departing to this place?
There's no evidence, that's the question he asked. Habibi.
My question is, say for example, a person who committed a sin, he sought forgiveness and the sin was forgiven. Will that deed still be there in the book? Recorded in the book?
So if the person was forgiven, right?
Right.
It's cleaned off. It's wiped out. It won't be mentioned. It's like he never ever done it before.
Sheikh, you mentioned earlier to Brother Ibrahim, you can touch on the points about good and evil souls by Ibn Qayyim.
Yeah, so can somebody download for me a PDF of the Kitab al-Ruh by Ibn Qayyim?
I'll give you one.
Yeah, it'd be nice, yeah. Kitab al-Ruh. Jazakallah. Yeah. Yeah, please, inshallah.
You have it on an iPad?
Yeah, I want Arabic.
They have.
I don't read English.
All is one?
Yes. No.
Download it? Or I'll share it.
You can send it to me.
Is that English, I can? That's the one.
I'll send it to me. Send it WhatsApp.
So where are you running to?
Yeah.
So I think I downloaded it. Wait, I've got it here. I spoke too fast.
رقم الصفحة
آخر فارس.
الفارس.
Just mention what you're going to do now. Yeah. So that the Zoom people and the ladies will learn up. So remember I said I was going to talk about the things that cause Adab al-Qabr, صح? So let's go through it now. So Ibn al-Qayyim says, ما الأسباب التي يعذب بها أصحاب القبور? What are the reasons why the Adab al-Qabr happens? He says there's two responses. فَجَوَابُهَا مِنْ وَجْهَيْنِ. There are two responses of why there is the punishment of the grave. He said one is what? Mujmal, and there's a one which is mufassal. Mujmal means there's a general reason why all of these people are being punished by the punishment of the grave. So let's go through the general one first, and then we go into the detailed reasons why the adab, the punishment of the grave happens. The general one is, he says, فَإِنَّهُمْ يُعَذَّبُونَ عَلَى جَهْلِهِمْ بِاللَّهِ. It's because of their ignorance of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that's one. These are general reasons. وَإِضَاعَتِهِمْ لِأَمْرِهِ. And they forsaked, okay? Or they forsaked Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala's command. Okay? وَارْتِكَابِهِمْ لِمَعَاصِيهِ. And they fell into sins. فَلَا يُعَذِّبُ اللَّهِ. Allah does not punish ruhan, a soul who recognized Him. Allah does not punish subhanahu wa ta'ala a soul that recognized Him, وَأَحَبَّتْهُ, and loves Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, وَامْتَثَلَتْ أَمْرَهُ, and followed the commandments of Allah. I'll repeat again. He says the reason why these people are being punished in the grave is number one, their ignorance of Allah. They didn't choose to learn about who Allah is. And when it came to His commands, they didn't give it importance. They forsaked it. Whatever. And they fell into sins after sins after sins. Look what he then said. فَلَا يُعَذِّبُ اللَّهِ. Allah does not punish رُوحًا عَرَفَتْهُ, a soul who knows its creator. وَامْتَثَلَتْ أَمْرَهُ, and followed through with Allah's command. Allah doesn't punish that person. وَاجْتَنَبَتْ نَهْيَهُ, and stayed away from the things Allah prohibited. Allah will punish that person. That's a general answer. فَإِنَّ عَذَابَ الْقَبْرِ وَعَذَابَ الْآخِرَةِ أَثَرُ غَضَبِ اللَّهِ وَسُخْطِهِ. He now goes into saying that the punishment of the grave and the punishment of the hereafter is a result of Allah's wrath and anger on this person. Okay? فَمَنْ أَبْغَضَهُ اللَّهُ, anyone who Allah is angry with, وَأَسْخَطَهُ, and has upset Allah تبارك وتعالى في هذه الدار, in this world, ثُمَّ لَمْ يَتُبْ, and does not repent from it, وَمَاتَ عَلَى ذَلِكَ, and dies upon that way, you see, كَانَ لَهُ مِنْ عَذَابِ الْبَرْزَخِ, for him is going to be in عذاب البرزخ بِقَدْرِ غَضَبِ اللَّهِ وَسَخَطِهِ. The punishment is going to be in accordance to the anger of Allah and how you have angered Him subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَمُسْتَقِلٌ وَمُسْتَكْثِرٌ. Well, one is a lot and one is little. وَمُصَدِّقٌ وَمُكَدِّبٌ. That's the general answer. All of those people, that's their reason. Now he's going to go into this يعني الجواب المفصل. What is it really that causes عذاب القبر? Number one, فقد أخبر رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم, he said that the Prophet told us عن الرجلين اللذين, the two men, رآهما يعذبان, the two men who the Prophet went by who were being punished in the grave. في قبورهما, صح? What was it that they were both punished for? One was a talebearer. He would take one news from one person to another. And the other one, urine. Ay na'am. Okay. فَهَذَا تَرَكَ الطَّهَارَةِ. And the second one, he left off what? طهارة. وذلك ارتكب السبب الموقع لعداوة بين الناس بلسانهم وإن كان صادقا. وفي هذا تنبيه على أن الموقع بينهم العداوة بالكذب والزور والبهتان أعظم عذابا. And the other one is what? What did he cause? Namima. Talebearer. Okay. Then Ibn al-Qayyim mentions Umara. It was commanded to an angel to lash a man in his grave. Are you there, brothers? An angel was commanded to lash this person's grave. And the person started begging Allah, Ya Rabb, please, 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 don't punish me, please, Ya Allah, please. He begs and he keeps crying to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. And the angel was commanded to lash him 100 lashes. Okay? It's not your ordinary lash. After he begs Allah, 99 is taken off. And it becomes what? 1. And then he gets lashed with that one lash. فَمَلَأَ قَبْرَهُ نَارًا. From that one lash, his whole grave, fire, burns. And the man burns. And he burns for years. Then the fire goes out. He gains consciousness again. And he says, why was I lashed for? What was that I did? And it will be said to him, and he will be told to him, إِنَّكَ صَلَّيْتَ صَلَاةً. You prayed a prayer without tahara. See that? I ask you guys a question. Imagine the one who doesn't even pray. This is the one who prays, just not in a state of tahara. What about the one who doesn't pray at all? Allahumma thabbitna ya Rabbal Alameen. Okay.
ما تعمد.
ها؟
ما تعمد.
ما تعمد أي نعم.
الله.
يعني this person is not learned the ahkam is قد يعتمد يتعمد. It could be possible that تعمد. He intentionally did it. But this person believes عظمة الصلاة and how important it is. He doesn't want the salah to go. So he even prays whatever situation he's in. But the salah is important to him. Versus the one who's what? Okay. Deep, right? وقد تقدم حديث ابن مسعود سمرة في صحيح البخاري في تعذيب من يكذب الكذبة. Another one. Ibn al-Qayyim mentions now. A person who lies a lie. عذاب القبر. فَتَبْلُغُ الْآفَاقَ. Wallahi, I used to ask myself a question. I think before all of this stuff, social media stuff, when I came across this hadith, I was very young. A person would make up a lie. And it would reach the entire world. I was just thinking, how is that going to happen? Social media. Twitter and Instagram. That's exactly what it is. You make up a lie on Twitter, a guy in China reads it. Yeah, brothers. I remember my sheikh's sharah of this was, because there wasn't social media then. Yeah, brothers. His sharah was, it could be, he said, that a person makes a lie here, and because there's aeroplanes and flights and you can go countries quickly, that you be to another city and you lie. That's what his sharah was. Are you with me, brothers? Today, what's the sharah? Wallahi. You make up a lie, and people are tweeting it. 50,000, 60,000 tweets. It's going on. Tweet. And it's false. And everybody believes in that false. Adab al-qabr comes from it. وَتَعْذِيبُ مَنْ يَقْرَأُ الْقُرْآنِ. Again, from Adab al-qabr is the one who recites the Qur'an. ثُمَّ يَنَامُ عَنْهُ بِاللَّيْلِ. And then he sleeps from it. يعني he memorized the Qur'an. حافظ بكتاب الله. At night he doesn't pray قيام الليل. He doesn't. وَلَا يَعْمَلُ بِهِ بِالنَّهَارِ. Of course, put all of this condition together. The Qur'an is mere memorization for him. So it doesn't do for him anything at night, and daytime it doesn't do anything to him. He's hafiz, he's cheating, lying, deceiving. There's no sign this person is a hafiz. Are we all together, brothers? وَتَعْذِيبِ الزُّنَاتِ وَالزَّوَانِ. Adab al-qabr is also what? The ones who are committing zina. Why is Ibn al-Qayyim in this kitab, mashallah, not this kitab, sorry, Dawrah, he mentions why adab al-qabr and the punishment for the person, people are committing zina, is because the joy that they had, the entire body felt it, right? The whole entire body is going to be destroyed and burnt. That's why the adab al-qabr is that they're burning. وَتَعْذِيبُ آكِلِ الرِّبَى. The one who eats riba. The person who what? By the way, just as a side benefit, Ibn al-Qayyim mentions in this book, the Prophet saw all of the people's adab al-qabr punishment the night of Isra wal Mi'raj. In the seerah I went through this in details, by the way. So when the Prophet saw, and he says, Jibreel, who are these people? These are the people who had riba. Who are these people? These are the people who committed zina. It's all referring to adab al-qabr. Brothers, stay away from riba. Wallahi, Imam Malik, a man came to him and he said to Malik, I said my wife is divorced if there's anything worse than killing. Sah? My wife is divorced. I want to know if my wife is divorced. I say my wife is divorced if there is anything in the Quran worse than zina, worse than qatl. Or was it zina, he said? One of the two. Malik said, so he said, am I right? Because if he's wrong, his wife is divorced. Malik said, let me look into this. And Imam Malik went and checked the Quran. He came back to the man came to Malik the next day, said, hey, Imam Malik, do you have an answer? He said, wait, give me more time. Malik went back and looked at the Quran again. When he came to him the second day, he said, hey, do you have an answer for me? Imam Malik said, I have an answer for you. Your wife is divorced. Why? He said, I haven't found anything worse as a sin in the Quran than riba. Why? Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, I am in war with the person who's eating riba. إن الذين يأكلون الربا لا يقومون إلا كما يقوم الذي يتخبطه الشيطان من المس ذلك بأنهم قالوا إنما البيع مثل الربا وحل الله البيع. That's another one. الذين يأكلون الربا, what did Allah mention about them as well? The people who consume riba, what did he say? They are what? They are in a mubaraza. What's a mubaraza? Just before the jihad starts, the enemy, one person comes from the side of the disbelievers, another person comes from the side of the believers, and they fight. That is you fighting with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. فَأَذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. You just clearly know that you are. And so wallahi, riba today is what? The Prophet told us there's going to come a time when what? That the person is going to, if he doesn't consume riba, the smoke of riba will come to him, however much he tries to run away from it. صح? Be careful, brothers. Don't consume riba. Don't give your children riba. You will face severe consequences because of it. I'm telling you. I believe all of this nonsense that we're seeing right now, where people are becoming transsexuals and all of this, all of the consumption of what's being eaten, that's why Allah Ta'ala is deforming the people. This is a form of punishment. صح? نعم. Okay. From the people who receive adab al-qabr, he mentions is what? The person who steals from the spoils of war before it's given out. Before it's given out, what does he do? He takes that money and he steals from it. Adab al-qabr occurs from it. Yeah? The ghulul, sahih. Ibn al-Qayyim also mentions فَالْكَذَّابُ وَالنَّمَّامُ, the liar, the person who's a what? A nammam, يعني who causes namima. And وَشَاهِد الزُّور, the person who false testimony. False what? وَاجْتَنِبُوا الرِّجْسَ مِنَ الْأَوْثَانِ وَاجْتَنِبُوا قَوْلَ الزُّور, statements of false testimony, شهادة الزُّور, stay away from that. Also, another thing, brothers, are people who are light on the tongue, which is the qadhif al-muhsan, a sister who is chaste and she's not committed zina. You say, this girl, yeah, she's bad, she commits zina. Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala says, وَالَّذِينَ يَرْمُونَ الْمُحْصَنَاتِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَأْتُوا بِأَرْبَعَةِ شُهَدَاءَ فَجِلِدُوهُمْ 80 جَلْدَةً وَلَا تَقْبَلُوا لَهُمْ شَهَادَةً أَبَدًا وَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ. That person that did that, don't sit with them. Yeah? He's a fasiq. Never in Islamic court will he ever be taken as a witness. Ever. He's never a witness. He has to be 4 witnesses. 4 witnesses. If he's got 3 people and he's got the 4th, shut your mouth. Are we all together? It happened at the time of the Prophet ﷺ where a Sahabi by the name of Hilal ibn Umayyah, he saw his wife cheating. What did he see? His wife cheated. And this ayah came down. So he came to the Prophet and said, Ya Rasulullah, my wife committed zina. Ooh. And the Prophet said, hey, bring 3 witnesses extra. He said, Ya Rasulullah, how am I going to get 3 witnesses? It was me. I entered the house, I saw her with the man. My eyes saw everything that happened. The Prophet said, if you do not bring 3 witnesses, I'm going to follow the ayah. وَالَّذِينَ يَرْمُونَ الْمُحْصَنَاتِ ثُمَّ لَمْ يَأْتُوا بِأَرْبَعَةِ شُهَدَاءَ فَجِلِدُوهُمْ 80 جَلْدَةً, 80 lashes I'm going to put on your back. You're a fasiq, and no one's ever going to take your statement ever again. Hilal ibn Umayyah cried. He said, Ya Rasulullah, I know Allah is not going to humiliate me. Allah is going to defend me in this situation. Allah is going to, inshallah ta'ala, exonerate me from this issue. And then what came down? وَالَّذِينَ يَرْمُونَ أَزْوَاجَهُمْ, those who accuse their wives of what? They don't need to bring 4 witnesses. What are they? There's a mas'ala known as mas'alatul li'an. Guess what, brothers? Wallah, Islam, when you look at this story, you'll be shocked if I tell you the story. Hilal ibn Umayyah, what they have to both do is they have to, first of all, they have to make an oath that they're telling the truth, and then after that, they have to do la'an. May Allah's curse be upon me if I'm lying. That's what they say. Are we all together, brothers? This woman, when she made the oath, just before she was about to do the li'an, she stopped and she paused. She looked around. The Prophet said, fear Allah, don't make curse against yourself. It's going to happen to you. Because that's what the qadi has to do. She looked around. She said, I'm not going to humiliate the honor of my family. And then she did the li'an. The Prophet said, khalas, there's nothing we can do. She went through the process. But the Prophet said, listen, this woman, she got pregnant from me. The Prophet said, if the child she gives birth to looks like this, and looks like this, looks like this, Hilal ibn Umayyah's child. And if the child looks like this, it's the man that she's been accused of. Who did she give birth to? The man she was accused of, she gave birth to a child that looks exactly like him. How the Prophet said it. And the Prophet said, if it was not for the ayah, and if it wasn't for the judgment of Allah, there would have been between me and her another situation. But he can't do anything to her because she did what the verse told her to do. Does that make sense? My point is, brothers and sisters, this statement of accusing women of zina, like that, that's a very dangerous thing. Very dangerous. Look what he mentions from Adab al-Qabr ibn al-Qayyim. وَالْمُوضِعُ فِي الْفِتْنَةِ وَالدَّاعِي إِلَى الْبِدْعَةِ. The person who calls to innovation. وَالْقَائِلُ عَلَى اللَّهِ. The one who says about Allah and His Messenger that which they have no knowledge of. Okay? Also, from them is وَآكِلُ أَمْوَالَ الْيَتَامَى. Those who eat the wealth of the what? The orphans. A lot of people, what do? They eat the wealth of the orphans that they're meant to look after. وَأَكْلُ السُّحْتِ مِنَ الرِّشْوَةِ For example, eating bribery, or bribing, or taking bribe. Adab al-Qabr. Okay? وَالْحَاكِمُ بِغَيْرِ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهِ. And the person who judges by other than what Allah sent down subhanahu wa ta'ala. وَالْمُفْتِي بِخِلَافِ مَا شَرَعَهُ اللَّهِ. And the mufti who deliberately gives a verdict in opposition to what? What Allah legislated subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the person who kills innocent people. He mentions rahimahullah ta'ala so many points. The one who delays the prayer from its time. The one who boasts and brags about sins that he has committed. Oh, yesterday, you know what I did? I mean, what can I say in it? Allah bless me in it. I did this and I did this. And sometimes, brothers and sisters, glorifying sin, sometimes we need to be careful about talking about our past and what we did. Some people, when they start practicing, they get carried away a little bit. They talk about their sins. And the Prophet told us in the hadith, كُلُّ أُمَّتِي مُعَافَ إِلَّا الْمُجَاهِدِ. The mujahid is the person who's outwardly speaking about his sins. If you murdered somebody, would you ever talk to, and you got away with it, would you ever tell anyone that you've murdered somebody in the past? No one will come out and say, yeah, I shot a guy in the head and I got away with it. Allah guided me. Sah? So why would you talk about zina and stealing and all of that? It's still a sin, right? So don't speak about your past sins in a glorifying manner. Does it make sense? Stay away from. So those people are Adab al-Qabri. So you've got the Kitab al-Ruh by Ibn al-Qayyim in the group. Inshallah ta'ala, there's a whole chapter of it. And after he mentions the people who are going to receive the blessings of the grave. May Allah make us from those people. Dua. The battle is short. Any other questions? Habib alayhi salam.
People doesn't bury the dead body. How will the dead body get punishment of the grave?
The punishment of the grave is nothing to do. Adab al-Qabr, even though it's mentioned as a qabr and all of that, it's the barzakh, not the qabr. So we're talking about Allah, right? He can do what He wants. He can do what He wants.
I have a question. So you mentioned about the ruh, it goes through a journey, right? So we have a really long journey going on. So what I want to know, it's a very critical question. Does the ruh dies like in the whole journey, or is just the body that expires? Because you mentioned it goes through like 4 different stages, you know, like of rahim, like through the mother, and before that, you know, so we go through a whole journey. So does the soul die, or does it continue the journey and the body expires?
So the barzakh, there's no body anymore. Remember I told you guys a dream? When you have a very bad dream, the barzakh is going to be like that. What's getting punished is what? Soul suffers. The question is when you're in the barzakh, what is it that's exactly, the body's gone. As we know, the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّ الْأَرْضَ تَأْكُلُ أَجْسَامَ بَنِي آدَمَ. The earth will swallow the flesh of the human. And the only thing that would remain from it is al-ajbu, al-dhanab. The only thing that remains is that ajbu al-dhanab. وَمِنْهُ يُتَرَكَّبُ. The Prophet said, from that, the person comes back later. Only the prophets are the ones that their body doesn't get eaten by the earth. Okay? إِنَّ اللَّهَ حَرَّمَ الْأَرْضَ أَن تَأْكُلَ أَجْسَامَ الْأَنْبِيَاءِ. The Prophet said, the earth, Allah made it haram from it to eat the flesh of the prophets. And some of the scholars mentioned the shuhada, all the, some of the evidence is mentioned the shuhada, etc. But the point I'm trying to come to is, in the grave, it's the soul that's getting adab for. But doesn't mean that the person doesn't feel, like you wouldn't feel it like your body's getting punished. You do. If the soul by itself gets punished, it's a pain that comes back to the person itself. Makes sense?
Any bank account, if automatically generate the interest, but you are not consuming, you are giving to the charity, is it okay?
So it's not charity that you're doing, you're saving yourself.
You are giving to
You don't get rewarded for it, but you get saved from, inshallah ta'ala, eating riba. And the sadaqah that you give, by the way, sorry, it should not be sadaqah towards masajids or things like that. Let it be mashari' amma. General, like building roads and things like that now. So,
some bank has a, suppose, finance affairs, they have their own charity fund or something, any something riba is generated, suppose care is the bank account, in UK it generates some interest, so we put in this account.
yeah, so give it to the charity that.
Then we don't know how bank is maintaining this account.
Try to give it to charities that focus on general rather than masajids and things like that.
If any person who is very financially in bad situation, can we give this money to him?
No. That money should only be put towards Sharia Amma, that's what I said.
Chef, related to the same question. In the bank, there is some option. If we want, we can tell them we don't want to put the interest on my account. So I have certain amount of money in my account, but this amount, this riba amount, it is not coming to my account. But they can use that amount on their own, maybe for their propagation of their religion or something. So is it okay to take this riba and use it like general charity, or just ignore it, let them do whatever they want?
It's better to take it and put it in Sharia Amma.
Where did I?
Sheikh, there's a question.
One second. Sheikh, we'll take now questions from the sisters
Zoom
and
and
also
question.
Zoom. And then we'll pause brothers for
Yeah,
a
you
moment.
go ahead, brothers, and think Allah very sorry.
Sheikh, the question on Zoom. Assalamu alaikum. There's a hadith that says only one thing separates a person from dunya and jannah. That is a person who reads Surah Ayatul Kursi after every fard salah. The only thing that separates him from jannah is the death. The question is, does he have a barzakh?
So this is akhirah. This hadith is not talking about the qabr. As I said to you before, brothers, a person can go through adab al-qabr and still go to Jannah after that. And a person may not go through adab al-qabr, but go to the hellfire as well. Does that make sense? Adab al-qabr is his reward, and akhirah is another thing. Does that make sense?
If you don't like someone, but still when you meet them, you show a good face to them, is it considered two-faced?
Sheikh, can you repeat the question, please?
Yeah,
No, the lady, this is for Zoom.
okay.
Lady is just there.
So the question here is if you don't like someone, and when you meet them, you're not very nice to them, oh, I'm very, how are you? But you don't really like them, and you two-faced. No, that's not the two-faced means when you're with them, you deal with them in a certain way, and then when you leave, you say things about them. But the way I feel is not in my control. The way I feel towards certain people, but I don't change my positions towards you based on my own feelings. If I'm upset with you, I will tell you I'm upset. This is what I feel towards you. You made me upset, and I deal with it. And when you leave, there's nothing that's going to happen behind closed doors. But if you're meeting them, you're nice to them, and you're like, Ahi, you mean the most to me. Wallahi, I love you, Ahi. And when you leave, you're like, oh, I hate this guy. That's two-faced.
Sheikh, another
That's
question.
why, just sorry. The ayah, okay, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, يعني, marry multiple wives. Right? What did Allah tabarak wa ta'ala tell us to do? If a man's marrying multiple wives, he's allowed to marry multiple wives when he is what?
Just.
He's just. But we have an ayah in the same surah where he says, وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ وَلَوْ حَرَصْتُمْ فَلَا تَمِيلُوا كُلَّ الْمَيْلِ فَتَذَرُوهَا كَالْمُعَلَّقَةِ. You will never be able to be just. So how do we understand that? You see, it's talking about the justice of the heart. Are we all together, brothers? A person is gonna, Allah won't hold you accountable to that one. How you feel inside your heart. A man's married to 2 wives, 3 wives, 4 wives. He loves one, okay, more than the rest. She's special to him. She does so much for him. She's there for him. She's special. He loves her the most. But you will never see that in his judgments. He's a good man. The heart, Allah Ta'ala already said that. وَلَن تَسْتَطِيعُوا أَن تَعْدِلُوا بَيْنَ النِّسَاءِ. You will never be able to be what? Fair in your
Judgment.
Who did the Prophet love the most from his wives?
Aisha.
You already know that. He said it. What about fairness?
All.
That's how it has to be. Does that make sense? And did the Prophet's wives know that the Prophet loved Aisha more?
Yes.
Oh, they knew. They actually knew. Remember when Prophet ﷺ, by the way, he one time boycotted all of his wives for 29 nights.
Yes.
He left all of them. They upset him. And Umar heard. Umar came home, and his wife, he said to her, what? He spoke to her and she spoke back to him. He said, what? Why are you speaking back to me? She goes, who do you think you are? The Prophet's wives speak back to him.
Allahumma salli.
What? He forgot his wife. That's how Ashab Rasulullah was. He said, what? The wives of the Prophet speak back to the Prophet. She said, yeah. By the way, Umar already mentioned this. He said, when we were in Mecca, we had control over our wives. When we came to Medina, the women of Medina, they speak back to their men. It's Medina that affected us. You understand, brothers? So anyways, the point is, Umar said, really? Allah, okay, wait, let me. So he went and he found out that they do that. And who was he most worried about?
Hafsa.
Hafsa, his own daughter. So when he went to Hafsa, what did he say to her? He said, do not be fooled by what Aisha can get away with. He loves her more than you. He will tolerate from her what he won't tolerate from you. That's what Umar said to his own daughter Hafsa. So it was common, well-known knowledge, sah? Yeah? But it never affected the way he dealt with his wives. He was what?
Just.
He was fair to all of them. He was what? He was fair to all of them. Even the last days he passed, when he was on his deathbed, he was sick. Every woman, when it was her night, she would come and she would take him. And he was struggling, he couldn't walk. Every day he would say, Aina ana ghadan. Aina ana ghadan. Where am I going to be tomorrow? Where am I going to be tomorrow? Who did he want to be with?
Aisha.
He kept asking, am I going to be? But he won't stop every wife taking him. Some of the narrations mentioned he couldn't even walk, so they were dragging him. Because each woman wants their husband, the messenger to be with her, and he won't stop them. Some of the narrations mentioned it was Fatima who said, don't do this to my father. Every woman's dragging him. He's sick. Place him in one house and all of you come and visit him. Because it's their right, he can't say, I'm not going to stay with you. But his heart wants who? But it's their rights. So they can keep dragging him to whichever house they wanted. So that's the balance here. So there are people on this earth, the reason I mentioned this, by the way, is there are people you're going to meet and you just don't get along with them. They get under your skin. صح? As the Prophet said, الأرواح جنود مجندة ما تعارف منها اختلف وما تناكر منها اختلف. There's people when you meet them, you feel like you've known them all your life. You enjoy them. You're like, you know what? I want to meet you again. صح? There's people like that when you meet them. And it's so good. And you enjoy yourself. And it's fun. It's like, man, Allah bless you. I really love you, man. It's like I've known you all my life. And there's some people when you meet them, you're like, oh man, you're like, I do not want to be here. You're looking at your time like, why am I here? No, I'm not like that. But there's people you find a bit of, it's hard to deal with them. They're very hard and complicated. But if you want to express yourself, don't express yourself behind his back. Express yourself in front of him, or else leave it.
Sheikh, when Allah has given us very little knowledge of the ruh, and there are very limited texts talking about ruh in the Quran and Sunnah.
Talking about what?
Talking about the ruh. Ruh. يسألونك عن الروح. In the Quran and Sunnah, but scholars have written huge books on this topic. So how are the additional things written? Are they derived from the Quran and Sunnah, or are they opinions of the scholars which can be taken or rejected?
No, there are a lot of things that the Prophet told us about the ruh. A lot of things. All of them are taken from the Quran and the Sunnah. They expanded on it, explained it, discussed it. Of course, because of the ruh, so much arguments came out from amongst the groups. Ideologies came out from it. Everyone tried to take mystic paths, or some took mystic path, and that's why the books have become bigger. They're dealing with deviated groups. But yes, it all goes back to the Quran and the Sunnah, right? Brothers and sisters, do you guys know that? What's the speech of Allah called? Quran, right? You look at the Quran; it's small, right? Compared to the books of tafsir. So that's how. The beauty of Allah, His Messenger, is that their words are very little. Hey, now, and when people come dealing with it, they have to say a lot about it. Like when the man came to the Prophet and he said, Ya Rasulullah, قُلْ لِي فِي الْإِسْلَامِ قَوْلًا لَا أَسْأَلُ عَنْهُ أَحَدًا بَعْدِي. Say to me about Islam something I don't need to ever ask anyone other than you. What did the Prophet say? قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ ثُمَّ اسْتَقِمْ. So I believe in Allah and be steadfast. Oh, that's the whole religion. Sah? It's so, like, look how short that is. قُلْ آمَنْتُ بِاللَّهِ. Say I believe in Allah and be steadfast. You can write volumes on that. So quick, his words are small, short, but to unpackage that and to talk about what haqiqatul istiqamah is, how it's, that's why he was Nabi Muhammad.
Second question, when somebody is in Antara situation, then he can also be on to the Jannah, or he must go to the Jannah.
So repeat your
The station, when he reached the station of Kantara, he's asking whether he will repeat it there, whether he will go to Jahannam.
No, Jannah. Once you go Kantara, if I see you there, inshallah, we see each other. Go to Jannah, inshallah.
What are the signs that one is proud or shows pride? If one is proud, how can they humble themselves? Can you repeat the question?
Good. How can somebody who has pride and arrogance, how can he humble himself? By the way, arrogance is what? بَطَرُ الْحَقِّ وَغَمْطُ النَّاسِ. Is to reject the truth when it comes to you and belittling others. Accept the truth when it comes to you and don't belittle others. You're not a proud and arrogant person.
Sheikh, the question says, I have a doubt regarding what you said earlier. You said the person wearing below the ankle is going to hell. Is this an issue of dispute? I'm just going to read the question, Sheikh. I've researched about it, and sheikhs like Yasir Qadi says it's alright, and he also says several other sheikhs also say it, because there are two ahadith regarding this. The second one says, if without arrogance, it's alright. So Sheikh Yasir Qadi says we connect the two ahadith. So your thoughts on that?
Please repeat. Can I just add on to this? Also, when I looked into this one, I found that there's a narration where it says Imam Abu Hanifa used to wear his clothes below the ankle. So when he came out, his student asked him, "Why are you wearing this?" He said, "Did you hear the Messenger of Allah said, if you wear it out of arrogance?" So I'm not. So I don't know how to reconcile.
Okay, good.
Please repeat.
So first of all, I have a policy. I do not like names mentioned in questions, generally speaking.
Sheikh, repeat the question.
Repeat the question.
Yeah. So I'll repeat the question.
Just
Generally
read the
speaking, no names mentioned, okay? Of people, nobody. Second thing is, what's the question? Somebody heard a public speaker say something about the issue of the garment being below the ankle. And they came across that person gave the fatwa of saying, it is what? There's nothing wrong with it, or it's fine. When we look at the deen, who do we take it from? Let's look at what the Prophet said. Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. The Prophet said, alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, "Ma asfala min al-ka'bayni fa fi an-nar." Anything that's below the ankles is going to be in the hellfire. Meaning your legs are going to be in the hellfire. That's one hadith. Please remember this. Okay? To show you that this argument is so flawed. But I need you guys to focus with me, okay? This hadith says anyone whose garment is below the ankles is what? Is in the hellfire. Not the person in the hellfire. Their legs are in the hellfire. That's what the hadith says. Okay. Another hadith says, are we all together, brothers? من جر ثوبه خيلاء لم ينظر الله إليه تعالى يوم القيامة. Anyone who drags his garment out of arrogance, Allah will not look at him the day of judgment. Are we all together? This person, the first category, what's his punishment? His legs are going to be in hellfire, right? And the other one's punishment is what? How can you take those two evidences and restrict this one with this one when they're two separate evidences, two separate punishments? You get it now? So this speaker and other speakers, what they do is they say this hadith that says anyone who drags his garment with arrogance restricts this general evidence. Because this evidence says anyone who drags his garment. And the other evidence says what? Anyone who drags his garment with arrogance. So they say, what's the principle in usul al-fiqh? If there's a restricted evidence and there's an unrestricted evidence, which one do we put forward? Restricted. So that's why they say it all goes back to arrogance. No, that's wrong. Why? Why is that wrong? The reason why it's wrong is because this hadith is talking about a certain punishment, which is Allah will not subhanahu wa ta'ala not look at those people who do it out of arrogance. So if you do it out of arrogance, Allah won't look at you. That's your punishment. But what about if you don't do it out of arrogance? Your legs are going to be held. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Am I making sense here?
Yes.
That's one response. Second response is what? And Imam al-Tirmidhi narrated in his Jami', where the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam he said, إِنَّ الْإِسْبَالَ مِنَ الْبَخِيلَ. Having your garment below the ankle itself is arrogance. I didn't say this. Wallahi. Who said it? So how do we understand this? The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. How do you understand this? The person, like Abu Bakr. When this evidence came down, Abu Bakr, as you all know, his garment used to be below his ankles. Abu Hanifa and others. What did they do? They tied their izar high, and because Abu Bakr was skinny, it would always go down. And then he would put it up again. It would go down. And he'd put it up, and it would go down. So you said this person's not doing it out of arrogance. You can see this person's struggling. He's trying to keep it up. But the one who is saying to you, I come out of my house, letting it be below my ankles. And I came out like that, and I'm going to keep it that way. It goes against all those evidences. Does that make sense? And look at the kitab, Imam al-Dhahabi. What's it called? Al-Kaba'ir. Major sins. Sah? Please look at that book. He puts it in the major sins. Who did that? He put it under the major sins.
What is the difference between qadar and free will? Having your own choice.
What's the difference between what?
Qadar and free will.
What's the difference, or how do you reconcile between the two?
Yeah, having your own choice. When we sin, and it makes you closer to Allah.
Is this choice?
Is this
I
choice?
question yesterday, but I didn't understand it. Was yesterday for question yesterday?
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah. So this question I didn't understand it because what do they want to know?
I think what she's asking is there's qadr, there's Allah's decree, and then there's our free will.
Because qadr does not negate free will. Aslan.
So I think that's what, for example, if Allah has willed for me to go to Jannah, and how is my free will a part of that process?
So you're going to go to Jannah with Allah's qadr and your free will. They go together. There's no like, you're not separating the qadr from the free will. We go together.
Sure. Let's put it this way: What if if Allah has decreed for me to sin?
If Allah has decreed for you to
For me to sin.
okay.
So I'm going to sin, right?
You're going to sin with the decree of Allah and your free will, right?
So free will comes from qadr, right?
Free will
Comes from qadr.
is part of qadr. Does that make sense?
Yes.
First, I want you guys to know something. Abdullah ibn Abbas and Umar ibn Khattab, all of them, they said, Al-Qadru Sirrullah. The qadr is a secret of Allah. So the ins and the outs, we're not going to understand that. Because why? It's an action of Allah, and for us to qadr Allah's actions is a bit too tricky for us. But it's not, I don't want to say we're not able to understand it. To an extent, we can understand so many things. The person is not like a leaf on a windy day. The leaf on a windy day, the wind is the moving it around. There's no choice. It just goes around everything. Does that make sense? And a group of people are called the Jabariya. They deviated. That's what they believe. They believe this person has no free will. He's made, like, they say this person is committing zina. Oh, Allah made him commit zina. He has no choice. Skip. So let's make dua for him. This one who's stealing, Allah. And this mindset cannot carry on. Why can't it not carry on? Because if that same person, you slap them, and you said, Qadarullah. Qadarullah, it wasn't me, it was Qadar. I was made to slap you. No one would accept that. Can you be like, no, brother, it's you. And I need to deal with you on this. Are we all together, brothers? So everyone feels there is a free will. There's a what? A free will. I can't say my hand was picked up. Allah, it's gonna hit you. And he said, my hand was lifted. No, my hand wasn't lifted. I had choice to lift my hands up and do it. But Allah has knowledge of that. Allah has knowledge. He has decreed everything that's happening. But you have a choice to say yes and no. That's why the Prophet said, "اعملوا فكل ميسر لما خلق له." That's why I kept saying to you, this person committed zina, or this person committed this haram with the qadr and his free will together. When Allah made the qadr, He did not separate the free will from it. It was part of it. This argument would only stand strong if Allah punished us without bringing us through the process of this world. And that would be a good question. Does that make sense? Then we can say, where's the free will here?
Sheikh, a question for the follow-up question from the brother who asked about the ruh. He says, also should you stop at what is there in the Quran and Sunnah and stick to it, and not try to seek more knowledge on this topic, or should we read the works of what the scholars have written in addition to it, like on topics like ruh, qadr, etc.?
Yeah, read about it. What's written on it from the people of the Sunnah, read about it. Yeah, it's good. The more knowledge you have, the more better it is. As long as it's within line, the Quran and that.
Sheikh, tips to have self-control and discipline.
Tips on how to have self-control and what?
Discipline.
I myself am looking for it, inshallah. When I find it, I'll let you know, inshallah.
Is this in the correct order? Is anything missing or in the wrong order? He's written the process: death, qabr, resurrection, gather in mahshar, Allah's questioning with the records, mizan, walking on sirat, the disbelievers fall into the hell, believers reach qantara and enter Jannah.
That's, there's more details to it, but that's the good tagline.
Shahid, somebody recites Surah Mulk every night, he or she makes two and the punishment of this is authentic.
Briefly mention the points of a dayuth. Dayuth.
The characteristics of the youth is that he watches his family do haram, or whatever ground it is. He watches his family indulge in haram, listen to music, disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on any grounds. So if he lets his wife, for example, take off her hijab, that's the youth. If he lets his wife listen to music, or his daughters and his sons to listen to music, he's the youth. The youth is all of the things that are prohibited. Don't let your family indulge in it. If you do let that, you're a youth.
Assalamu alaikum. What is the name of the angel of the grave who will ask the question?
It's not mentioned.
A small compliment or positive remark makes me overconfident, and a small negative remark demotivates me beyond measure. Are there any tips to bring about a balance?
Yeah, read the story of the righteous people.
Can you repeat the question?
The question is, when I get praised and I receive praise from people, I become overly confident, overly joyful. And if I'm criticized, I become extremely sad and hurt and depressed by it. So my advice would be to read the story of the righteous people, how they were like. I'll tell you something, there's not a person who doesn't get happy when people praise him. And there's nobody who doesn't get hurt by what people say. Even the Prophet ﷺ, Allah said, وَلَقَدْ نَعْلَمُ أَنَّكَ يَضِيقُ صَدْرُكَ بِمَا يَقُولُونَ. Okay, we know what the people say about you hurts you. But what was he told to do? فَسَبِّحْ بِحَمْدِ رَبِّكَ وَكُن مِنَ السَّاجِدِينَ وَاعْبُدْ رَبَّكَ حَتَّى يَأْتِيَكَ الْيَقِينُ. And realize that what people say does not really matter. That's what you have to understand. What people say does not really matter. Because people can praise you and really not know who you are. And we know that, right? We all know ourselves. We know ourselves. بَلِ الْإِنسَانُ عَلَى نَفْسِهِ بَصِيرًا وَلَوْ أَلْقَى مَعَاذِيرًا. We all know ourselves. I know myself. However much you praise me, I know myself. You can't fool me. Does that make sense? So when you know yourself, the praise and the good that people tell you should not trick you about what you are like really at home. So? And when people put you down low, okay, or they put you down, you try to take from it what is right. Not every criticism is wrong. There's people who give you constructive criticism. Listen and say, okay, you're right. Note that down and see that as a what? A means for you to sharpen yourself and be a better version of yourself before you meet Allah. So that, if you think like that, inshallah ta'ala, and my father always used to say, don't take things personal. Some people make things about themselves too much. I find those people a bit annoying. Don't make it about yourself. Everything's not about yourself. Sometimes, I'll tell you something, brothers and sisters. People's criticism of you is what? It could be your sins, expiation for your sins. A poet said, عِدَاتِ لَهُمْ عَلَيَّ فَضْلٌ وَمِنَّةٌ فَلَا أَذْهَبَ الرَّحْمَنُ عَنِّي الْأَعَادِيَ هم بحثوا عن زلتي فاجتنبتها وهم نافسوني يعني I reached المعالي, I reached high levels. يعني may Allah not take away my enemies, he said. And may Allah bless them and honor them. They looked for my mistakes and shortcomings, and guess what? Because of them, I was able to stay away from so many wrong things. Critiques are the ones who tell you the truth, right? Your friends are always going to be like, حفظك الله, may Allah bless you, أنت من أحسن الناس, أنت من أفضل الناس. That's what they say to you. and they don't correct you. But these people who are enemies will say, you, look at you, look, this is who you are, this is who you. And guess what? From that you die. What else? And you leave with gems, wallahi. So that's why you say, فَلَا أَذْهَبَ الرَّحْمَنُ عَنِّي الْأَعَادِيَ. May Allah not get rid of my enemies. هُمْ بَحَثُوا عَنْ زَلَّتِي. They look for my mistake. فَاجْتَنَبْتُهَا. I was able to stay away from it. وَهُمْ نَافَسُونِي. And they even tried to compete with me. فَاكْتَسَبْتُ الْمَعَالِيَ. And I reached high levels because of them. So it's good. It sharpens you. You see gold, in order for the gold to shine and to glow, what do you have to do to it? It goes through pressure and heat. That's what you need. For you to glow, you need to go through a little pressure.
I just want to add one point to the qadr and the free will, the question that you asked. Because a lot of people have this kind of misconception that like what Allah's qadr is, like if you go to hellfire, if it's written for you, you have to just go there. But there's an ayah in Surah Baqarah, like ayah number 30. وَإِذَا قَالَ رَبُّكَ لِلْمَلَائِكَةِ إِنِّي جَاعِلٌ فِي الْأَرْضِ خَلِيفَةً. So Allah has sent Adam alayhi salam as a successor, as a Khalifa. So Khalifa means that you have a right to do good and a right to do bad. So I think that's one of the points that people need to understand.
It's true. وَمَا تَشَاءُونَ إِلَّا أَن يَشَاءَ اللَّهُ. You will not will unless Allah wills subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you have a Mashiach, that's a free will. Correct.
Sheikh, the question is asking, my question is, how can I become firm in my prayer?
How can I be firm on my prayers and a consistent praying?
Maybe khushu, maybe consistency.
Read about the prayer. That's another thing people don't read about. The ahkam salah, the fada'il, the virtues, the dangers of reading the salah. There's a kitab written by Muhammad Nasr al-Marwazi. It's called what? Ta'zim Qadr Salah. What's it called? Ta'zim Qadr Salah. He talks about the honor and the position of that. Hatta there's a kitab written by Sheikh Abdul Razak ibn Abdul Muhsin Abbad. It's called Ta'zim Salah as well. I encourage you guys to read that book. It's actually Ta'zim Salah. Did I see it in that place? But there's an English translation for PDF. Look it up. Honoring the prayer or something like that. Sheikh Abdul Razak al-Badr, Salah, PDF, English translation. I've seen it.
Sheikh, the last question. Does the rule of garment below the ankles apply to the women as well?
No. Hadith Salama radiallahu ta'ala anha, where the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that the woman's garment has to be what?
Dragging.
Should drag. So a woman's garment should drag on the ground. Now, if the woman is going on buses and places like that, and she's got a polo like that, I will say to her, wear shoes and socks. So clothes, shoes, and socks. So it doesn't, your garment reaches your shoes, it doesn't drag, because in the West, sometimes they step on it deliberately. And it hurts, they do things to women. So if a sister wears a good long shoes, and she wears socks, and she wears jeans or something under, and she wears a big jilbab that doesn't have to touch the floor or doesn't have to drag, that's fine, inshallah ta'ala. As long as her legs are fully covered, that's fine, inshallah ta'ala. The women's garment can be below there. It's the brothers. I saw a brother one time, he's arguing with me on the issue of niqab and all of that. My wife doesn't want to wear niqab. And I said, bro, whoa, look at you. The issue of niqab is a disputed discussion. Oh, this is not, brother. You understand, brothers? So we have to set an example. It's not, brothers. So wear your nice jeans that you like, and your trousers and your clothes and all of that. Fine. Actually, it's good for your clothes to have above your ankles. By the way, it just can't be below the ankles. That's all it is. That's halal. So it can be on your ankles or above. It's just a little bit. And I honestly believe, see, you know what's funny right now? It's fashion right now. Yes. I saw others doing it, and I thought they started practicing, and so they were taking their deed serious. And what brother said, no, it's fashion. Imagine fashion can make your garment short. Yeah?
Sacrifice a few seconds of
Allah bless you, brothers, and grant those. I apologize if I offended anyone for what I said. And then we did سبحانك اللهم وبحمدك أشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت أستغفرك وأتوب إليك.
Which one? That mic? Okay. So we keep this?
Yeah, take one.
You keep on.
Yeah, take mine.
Check. We're going to do the same thing what we did
Yesterday, yeah.
So 3 questions for the sisters,
And brother, yeah.
3 questions for brothers. Same process.
Okay, same process.
Yeah. I think there's one question from.
Not a question, I just want to add a point in the other.
Oh yeah.
There's a video of Sheikh Ustad Tim Hamad on YouTube about understanding the Qadr.
Ah.
So he has like a 1.5 hour video. In that he explains very well. So he just mentioned.
Sheikh Tim, there you go. Hafidhahullah ta'ala. Inshallah, he's made a video on understanding of Qada and Qadr. Inshallah. Bring Sheikh, I told you guys, have Sheikh Tim humble, and then you guys are going to say, Abdurrahman, why did you waste our time? So I ask 3 questions to the sisters.
Yes, first
to the
sisters.
brothers.
Yeah,
The sisters.
sister first question.
Okay. Can the sisters mention 3 sins which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not talk to his people and will not purify them? 3 groups of people. Just 3 groups of people.
Okay, we can go with the brothers.
Okay, that's for the brothers, right?
Sisters.
The sisters. And the brothers. The person who conceals their anger, what's their reward?
No, hands up first.
Yeah, he put his hand up.
Have 72 foods. You have to choose. I don't make it choose from the foods.
Hold on, Ayn. You like that one, that's why. Yeah, he's got it right.
So the question was not heard properly for the sisters. Can you repeat?
Yeah, the question is for the sisters. Can they mention 3 groups of people who Allah will not speak to and not purify? I mentioned a number of them, right? So just mention 3 of them who Allah will not speak to and He will not purify them. Subhanahu wa ta'ala. لا يكلمهم الله ولا يزكيهم. Shall I ask the brothers another question? Yes. Another question to the brothers. Can you tell me the 7 types of shafa'ah? The 7 types of intercession. I want every single one of them. The gifts are black.
Can we refer?
Yeah?
Can we refer?
Yeah, you can refer to your notes, no problem. Yeah, تفضل.
Okay, so first, the supreme intercession.
The first is the supreme intercession. Hiya, second,
Second, for the Muslim sinners,
the Muslim sinners. Allah barik.
intercession.
Abdulrahman, don't let us down. That's our name.
Of our beloved Prophet Muhammad.
The intercession of our beloved Prophet ﷺ for who?
For
Huh? You forgot. Abdulrahman. Hiya, تفضل.
For the believers to enter Jannah.
Okay, that's not order, but okay, that's one intercession. Hiya. The believers to enter Jannah. That's one. Hiya.
To raise the status of the people in Jannah.
To raise the station of the people of Jannah. Okay.
To lower the punishment of the people in Jannah. Like for Abu Talib.
Abu Talib. Hiya. One is missing. Oh, two is missing, sorry. Two. We need somebody who knows it all. Hey Ibrahim, you know all, each one, 7. Yeah, you have to do it in the order, yeah. That's why I told you to write. هي الأولى شفاعة العظمى ها. الثاني شفاعة لمن؟
The first one is the supreme shafa'a.
Okay, second?
And the second is for the sinful Muslims.
The sinful Muslims.
And the third one is for the messenger, for the people whose deeds are equal.
Beautiful, you see? That's the one.
Fourth is for the messenger for raising people's stations in Jannah.
Beautiful.
And the intercession of the Prophet for the people to not be accounted. Like Ukashah ibn Muhsin.
صح عكاشة بن محسن صح ما شاء الله.
6 for Abu Talib to release his punishment.
Amazing. اللهم بارك.
Number 7, the Prophet asks Allah for the people of Iman to go Jannah.
Allah. There you go. MashaAllah. He did a 7, MashaAllah. You should get a big gift.
We have an answer from the sister side.
Correct. Yep, correct. Good. Correct.
So we'll ask the second question from the sisters.
The second question for the sisters is. Okay. What are the 5 questions that the slave will be asked on the day of judgment? Remember that? We mentioned 5. Sah? Do you remember? So 5 questions that the people's questions will go back to the day of judgment. I want every single one of it. Sah? 5. Sisters, they have to do the 5.
Third question for the
The third question for the brothers is, I want the types of hisab. Hisab, yeah. Hey, what is it? Al-Hisab al-Asir, that's one, correct? Hey, what is Hisab al-Asir? The kuffar, صح. And the second one is what? Hey, who? And how's it done? Okay, good, mashallah, that's good. Hey, third, another question for the brothers?
Okay.
Yeah. وختامه مسك. Last one, inshallah. What is, this is one question but has 2 questions inside it. What is the first action from the haqq of Allah that He will ask the Day of Judgment, and the first haqq of the creation between themselves which Allah will ask? Does that make sense? Yes. So I need both of them simultaneously to be mentioned. Yeah, of course, you get it. The first one is what? So is that the first right he's going to ask? No. Habibi, yes. First one is salah.
And the blood.
The blood. Yeah, he's got it, mashallah. Now it's the sisters. Okay, answer 2, salah, tahara, salah at the current time, prayer with. No, incorrect. The sisters got it wrong.
Answer 2.
Answer 2.
Salah, tahara, salah at the correct time.
Oh, this one, I read this one, I didn't read this one, sorry, I didn't read this one. Tawheed, actions you did in the dunya, your blessings, the covenant with Allah, the slaves, the limbs and how you used to do it. So the person mentioned Tawheed, that's correct. One second. Let me just check the order. So read the actions that they did, the blessings Allah gave them, subhanahu wa ta'ala, the covenants, that's correct, and the hearing and the limbs. He used to correct this and put that. Answer one is right. The sisters, the answer one is right. The sisters have one more question.
One more question. Brothers, sorry.
Okay, the last questions for the sisters, inshallah ta'ala, is ما الذي يوزن في الميزان? What is the thing that's going to be scaled on the day of judgment? ما الذي يوزن في الميزان?
Meanwhile, we can give the gifts to
the brothers.
Ah. Yeah.
The brothers, the who got the first question right? Allahumma barik, mashallah. Jazakallah khairan. Jazakallah khairan. Yes, who got the second question right? Allahumma barik. May Allah bless you and make you alim and a scholar. May Allah revive the sunnah on your hands, inshallah ta'ala. And who was the third person? What about the sisters?
Yes.
You'll get it, inshallah, don't worry. Get something more, inshallah. Deeds record and body sahih. The sisters, barakallah feek.
So just one announcement regarding the certificates. We already have the certificates printed. However, the names, I think it's taking more time than we expected. So inshallah, we will have it ready by the last day of the session, which is day after tomorrow, at Masjid Nimsh, in Salmiya.
Islamiyyat Ibn Taymiyyah, right?
No.
Tomorrow is what?
So day after tomorrow, inshallah. Anything else?
I didn't sign.
It's there. I'll give you the attendance.
Oh,
Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. Barakallah feek. Jazakallah khair.
في مسألة شفاعة الكفار هل هي خاصة أم لكفار الأمن؟ فقط هو ليس له كفار.
Brother.
Yes, sorry.
So that's the first thing.
I'll attend all these, inshallah.
Khalas.
I'll attend all these.
So just check the name. If it's not there, just write it.
No, if he still did not mark, no, khalas, he can't mark now.
I'll attend all these, inshallah. I ticked all of them because I'll attend all these.
Inshallah.